I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so somehow when I was out in Indiana and doing all those Zoom meetings, I don't know, I never had that problem before, so it was a new one. And I feel bad because it's 6:11 and it looks like you have a quorum and I'm holding you up. Do you have we
have a quorum, yeah.
have a quorum, right?
Yep.
Folks are here.
Yeah. So,
Okay, you want to do a roll call vote then quick and we'll get it started.
all right, Mike Naughton,
Present.
Jane,
Present.
Karen. Your sound's not on, Karen, sorry.
Yeah.
Just try.
Present.
All right, yes, I saw your mouth move, but for posterity, thank you.
Yep,
Bill,
thank
Yes.
Renee,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Steve,
Yep.
David,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
and I am here. All right, this meeting is being videotaped. It can be found on our website and on YouTube, or our YouTube channel. All yours, Alan.
All right, so thank you. It's so nice to see everybody. It's been a long time. We took a break over the summer, but we had both the Education Subcommittee and the Finance Transportation Facilities working with the consultants. So thank you for all of that work in between. It's the first time that we've gotten together. So just kind of review, over the last couple of years, we've collected a lot of information, and because of the pandemic and some other things, we've been in the collection mode, and we really haven't had forums to be able to take that information now and go out to the different constituents. So we're in the, I guess I'm going to say the final phase now in terms of being able to take questions that we have, surveys that the consultants work with the Education Subcommittee and tweaking those to the various stakeholders. And we're ready to bring that out and start presenting it to the communities to get feedback. I heard Jane say there's a lot of misinformation out there. She's absolutely right about that. I think part of that is because when you're only collecting information and trying to get a handle on the different perspectives, it leads to people filling in the blanks. And we had the danger of putting out partial information when we really didn't have enough really to put out there. So the recorder did a nice presentation and doing a review of what was going to happen, what had happened to date, and what was going to happen. There is an opportunity now for us to get the remaining part of the grant money, and I think it was around 7,000, 7 to 9, somewhere in that vicinity, where we could utilize the remaining part of the money. And it seems to make sense to hire a facilitator, that's someone that we can help to be asking the right questions to the right groups, but have that facilitator be the third party to go out and present information and to get public feedback. I don't want to run the risk of one of us doing that, and it seems like we're promoting one thing or another thing, or have a bias, because I believe everyone is pretty open-minded in making sure we can get all the educational and financial data before we know how to go forward and make a recommendation to the town. So that is the plan when we get notification that we can do that. If we are successful in being able to bring on a facilitator, we would have to expend that money by the end of December. So we'd have a several month period to reach out to stakeholders and so forth. So I sort of wanted to give a backdrop to, although it appears probably to the public that we've been dormant, we've really been in a very active fact-finding mission to get enough information to present, and then really with an open mind, hear what people have to say about it, what they think, how they feel, and so forth. So that's a backdrop to today's meeting. And probably just to get an update on sharing information. I don't think we'll have an opportunity today to get into the heart of each of the reports and so forth, but we certainly do want to, welcome everyone and give our chairs an opportunity to share what has happened with the consultants and give the board members an opportunity to make any comments or suggestions that you have. So with that, I did review, the next item is the June 29th minutes. I did review them. If you have questions, comments, we would like to approve them so we can try to stay as current as possible. So are there any motions to approve in a second and then
I'll move.
discussion?
I'll move to approve the minutes of June 29th. It's Michelle.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Okay. The only thing is, from my perspective is, I didn't get a chance to look at the ending time. We have a starting time. Does someone recall what time we ended that meeting?
No.
Is it recorded?
I can figure that out, Alan. That's not a problem. I'll tack it
Okay,
on
super.
in my notes
All
here.
right, any suggestions for amendments, modifications? All right, and I see Karen's shaking her head no, so, and the majority of you are, so, I guess we have to do roll call again. Do we want to just have you call out their name if people go across the screen, or are we all
Yeah,
different?
I can
or
call them in.
alphabetically?
So Mike,
Okay,
Aye.
Jane,
Aye.
Karen,
Yes.
Bill, Renee,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
David,
Aye.
Pat,
Yes.
and Jen. And Alan. Jen,
yes,
Jen, I'm just
and
including you all the time anyway. I know you're not really a voting member, but I still want to know if you approve of them because you come.
Thank you, I do approve.
And Bill, I saw you say yes, you mouthed it, but yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
I was muted.
yes, unanimous. Okay, thank you.
all right, let me see if we had this, we added this up. So correspondence, you should have received a letter that went to Desi, sort of putting in perspective the issues that have arisen now in two reports. And it's going to be there in the third one about the financial impact of forming a new regional school district and the questions that we have around that. Mark was extremely helpful in the information that he provided around the projections and what that would mean. And we really need to have a meeting, I guess Greg and I and maybe Mark, to sit down with some of the DESI officials and try to get an understanding of what they're thinking in terms of helping out the district. I mean, in a nutshell, Gil Montague would get, right now, get significant dollars in the next several years. And Pioneer, because we're so far over financial, get a negative, and then it ends up overall, the district would not be in a favorable financial position, as well as some of the towns. So you'll notice that the letter did not say, can you give us an incentive? Can you tweak the formula? It was more global, because I'm hoping it recognizes we're not the only regional school district or school district having these issues. And we all know it's all part of the funding formula and how Chapter 70 is working. And it really is time for them to be taking a serious look at this, and perhaps that's what we're bringing to the table and contributing to in the work that we're doing, because forming larger districts, if we end up just being bigger, as some people pointed out, but larger with the same problems, that really doesn't help. So the door was open to sort of say, do you think we should be bringing this to our legislators? How do we position this? We purposely did not send any communication to the legislators about this because we're hoping that Desi will make that a recommendation to us of, some of the steps we should be taking and whether or not it's going to be feasible to just really seriously start looking at the funding formula, regardless of whether we were to pursue this or not. So we're seeing the educational benefits, the potentials, the possibilities look to be favorable. The financial piece is not so much. And so I think probably most people on this board are obviously concerned about both. And we have to consider both in any recommendation that we may have. Greg, do you want to add anything to that sort of review?
No, I think, I think you said it fine. If there's not a financial incentive to form a larger region, then we're kind of back at square one. I mean, we've been telling our own districts separately that if you want to spend more money, we can have better programs. And in a sense, we're back to the same solution, which is if we formed a larger region, okay, we'll have better programs, but we're not going to really save any money. So, okay, well, how is that any different than if we just stayed separately? So I think that's important to just put that in front of them. And that may not be the case for all merging districts or districts that are looking to merge, like I'm thinking of the Berkshire districts are going through that right now. So they may have a different result, but I think it's still good to put it in front of them.
Does anyone have any comments about the framing of the letter or the position that we've kind of put out there to Desi and what the issue is? And all right, so then I'll consider that, an informational item, and we'll see if we can line something up and if they'll talk to us. As you notice, we asked for them to get back to us, and that hasn't happened yet. So we'll follow up and reach out again. The enrollment questions and the responses, Greg or Mike, there was a follow-up that you did. And then is that the document that the questions and responses, or was that?
Those were the questions that, yeah, those were the questions we put forward to Destiny, and and also the replies.
You mean NASDAQ?
NASDAQ.
NASDAQ.
What did I say? Desi? Oh, sorry,
You
NASDAQ.
said DESI. Well, I had questions for both DESI and NASDAQ. And I saw, first of all, I'd like to just clarify what the process was. People, at least on the FTF subcommittee, were supposed to, well, maybe the whole board were supposed to send enrollment related questions to Greg. And I know I sent some questions, and I don't know if anybody else did or not. But then what happened after that?
We passed them on to Jay and Steve, and they sent them to NASDAQ. NASDAQ replied and sent us that email.
Okay.
That was the process.
So did anybody do anything with the questions for Desi?
The questions for Desi?
Yes.
That I'm not sure. Were there questions for Desi? I thought that we were just talking about the NASDAQ questions for the NASDAQ enrollment.
Well, when I sent questions about enrollment, I had two sections, one for NASDAQ and one for Desi.
Oh, okay. I'd have to go back and look at
So
that.
I guess the short answer is no, nothing happened with those.
Okay, well, if you didn't see them in the replies, then no.
Okay,
Oh, I mean, we only heard back from NASDAQ. I have not received a reply back from Desi.
okay,
So those went to Mars. So that was Jay and Steve. So I passed all those on. So I'll go back and double check to see if they have passed those questions on to Desi.
okay.
Yeah.
And that may
Mike,
be
in an
more,
email, Mike, in an email, I thought I saw your central theme was around how DESI was taking enrollment numbers and they were being used in one format and then seeming to disappear and not being consistent in another place or lost. And you were asking what was happening to basically.
Yeah, let me see if I can find them. Here, I got them right here. Well, the first question was that in the projections that we received for the previous report through the Abrahams Group, DESI showed declining foundation enrollments for the towns in the district. In the projections that we received most recently from DESI, they showed flat enrollment projections, flat foundation enrollment projections. And so my question was, why? Why did that change? Seems a little odd because we've been hearing all along that enrollment has been declining, and all of a sudden DESI decided in their projections to assume that enrollment would kind of pick up after the pandemic, which is different from what NESDEC assumed, but then would stay flat. And one effect of that, I think, is that the Student Opportunity Act benefits kick in sooner if you assume flat enrollment than if you assume declining enrollment. And I don't know if that was part of their thinking, but because we don't know what their thinking was. So my question is, why did that happen? What changed? Second is that foundation enrollment for the towns in the districts, Pioneer and Gilmontague, depends in part on what happens with Franklin County Tech, because each town has a set number of kids that it's responsible for educating, but some of them go to either Pioneer or Gilmontague, and others go to Franklin County Tech. And if there's a shift one way or the other, that affects the foundation enrollment and thus aid dollars going one way or the other. So it's, if you make assumptions about enrollments in towns without explaining, how Franklin County Tech figures into that, it just seems to me that that's a major piece that's kind of a big question mark and throws up, makes it hard to understand what's going on. So I asked how they factored in Franklin County Tech. I asked if we could get their worksheets, because all we got was basically the end result. We didn't get any of their reasoning or calculations. And the last one was my perennial question about how you get from foundation enrollment numbers to attending enrollment numbers. I decided, why not just ask DESI directly how you get from one to the other, using figures available on their website. So those were my 4 questions for DESI.
All right, thank you, Mike, for that review.
Hey, Mike.
Can you forward that email on to Greg?
Yeah, Alan, I think Mike actually brings up a very good point about Franklin County Tech. My understanding is that they're getting to the point where what are their growth projections and what is their max capacity?
What is their max what?
Capacity
Capacity?
for enrollment.
I think they're at it.
Well, that was my question. I think they're close. And that's, that should factor in terms of projections over the next 5 to 10 years. If they're at their max, that's going to constrain the amount of, students that they can't just keep increasing, which they've been doing for quite a while.
Originally, their numbers were quite a bit higher than they are now. And then they went down number of years ago, and now they've increased over the last
Right.
couple of years, because I think they're getting in about 160 freshmen a year. And when I was there was about 120 was a class. So they have gone up about 40 students a class. I mean, they're increasing about that at this point. So, but I think they're very close to the amount of kids they can have in terms of how many shops they have and spaces available.
Right. And I don't really know how that enrollment gets spread out over the 19 towns. I mean, if there's a certain amount of lottery positions in each district, or how do you know, Steve, how that works?
It was always by town. There was so many slots.
There are
per
only
town.
so many slots. Okay, great, thanks.
But if a town doesn't use all its slots,
Right.
is it possible for another town to use more?
Right, if the
Uh,
other town has more students than they have slots, then they could possibly use the ones that you haven't used.
Mhm. I think they have done that,
They have,
recently. Because I know Leiden only has one student going there or enrolled at this point. So I don't know how many, if they're getting other students from Burson or where else, because I haven't seen where the students are coming from in the last few years.
Okay, thank you.
they
Yeah, it'd
do,
be interesting.
they do an excellent annual report, which I'm trying to put my hands on because I have a copy of it, but of course it's elusive at the moment. I'm sure if we ask them for it, they'll send us a copy.
Yep.
And it includes all their projections into the future, what they're projecting. And they do an excellent job of that. The rest of us should take a lesson.
But we probably ought to get some data on Franklin County. 15 years ago, they had 50 more students than they have today.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it would be rather amazing if DESI took that into consideration and actually knew they were reaching capacity, and that ended up with flatlining things, but I kind of doubt it. But that'd be good information to have. So we continue to look at the big picture. All right, I'm gonna skip over activities. I gave a review in the beginning. We have the subcommittees. I didn't know if the Mars group would be here. They are not. So why don't we go to Deb first? Deb, you and your subcommittee, and kind of review
Well,
what's
since
transpired, what you would project.
since we've all last met, we got the final report that we asked for from the Mars group. I don't know if they should have shared it with everybody. You guys should have all seen it. I know that some people had feedback for them to make changes, including Karen. I haven't looked at it since they made the changes. Have you looked at it, Karen, since then?
No.
Okay. So we were, I believe, I speak it as a whole, we were pleased with what we saw, I think, in general. I think the last time we met on the 18th, it was really to focus on the survey, which was the other thing that we asked them to present to us, and we tweaked that, and Rena redid it for us, but also I had Jay redo it too, because it was in a Google Doc and it was super hard to manipulate myself, even though they had sent it to us to redo. So now we have multiple versions in a PDF and a Word doc, and also in the original that Jay had his person who created it initially fixed. So that's available for people to look at. If it hasn't been shared to everybody, I apologize. We do feel like it's going to be easily filled out by people. I think it's a good document. We don't really want to change it now. We feel comfortable with the way it is. So I can send it out to everybody if you haven't seen it.
Well, yeah, I can ask, I hadn't seen anything until this evening, and Greg just sent out a couple of documents Was that one of them?
I don't think I sent out the questionnaire. I sent out the report, although I believe the first draft of the questionnaire, I believe is in the report.
Survey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't, he just sent it to me this morning. So, or yesterday morning. So it's not been sent out to the whole group. I can send it out tomorrow. So you can take a look at it.
Okay, and are these documents being put on our website?
Yes.
Once they're in their
Yeah.
final form, there was some editing that went on through their 10th meeting and their 18th meeting. So I haven't put anything up yet until I get the green light from Deb.
Yeah. So, yeah, they can all go up now, Greg, so everyone can see them.
Okay,
But I'll forward you from Jay, the one I.
yeah, at least forward me the final version so I don't get.
Well,
versions.
well. No, I know. I'll look at Raina's too, because it's in, yeah, it doesn't matter, but it shouldn't be changed because we were happy with the way it is, the survey. And we're meeting on the 15th to talk about what we're going to do with the survey. We feel pretty strongly that in the grant hiring that we want to have somebody who's going to be in charge of managing the dissemination of the survey, and then of course the collecting of the data, that none of us feel like we have the time or the ability to do that. And speaking of time, I've decided to still be on the committee, but I really want to step down as chair. So I know my people were thinking about who could lead us. I haven't had any takers yet, but Bill wasn't on that phone call. So Bill, if you want to be in charge, don't shake your head yet. Just think about it. Deb Bloomer's not here either. I'm always like, person who's not here, you don't do this. So yeah, I don't know. I just can't do it. I've done it for 2 years and I'm feeling like I can't manage it particularly well these days. And I don't want to let the team down. I am willing to stay on the committee, but I can't be in charge anymore. So that's my report, such as it is.
No, well, thank you for everything you've been doing and leading your team. I have a question about, in the report, it said that the questions would be, if I remember it right, tweaked or changed a little bit to target the individual, the various stakeholders. Did I misread that, or are you taking the general ones and then looking at, okay, if it's for teachers, we're gonna ask things a little bit differently, or?
No, it's just one. And there's an opportunity to designate what you are if you're a teacher. And that's why we really want somebody we wanted to keep it simple. And I think that it would have taken a lot of time. And I think the survey would have generally been similar. So anyhow, that's why we want someone to take the time to be able to collate, okay, all the teachers have these opinions, all the students have these opinions. So that we decided to do that. Rather than have individual. I think at one point we did talk about individual specific surveys for people, but we decided not to go with that.
So we haven't, and maybe, Greg, the next step is we should be putting out a request for quotes, proposal to start eliciting potential facilitators for this. If people know of people that are in that field and you want to make a phone call or recommendation to me so that we can make sure that they see what we put out, that would be really helpful. But we probably should start that process in anticipation of being able to get someone on board. Because we obviously don't want to wait until after. Go ahead, Deb, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I just, I forgot the other thing that we had Mars Group do. So they have a report. They have like a slideshow, like a PDF presentation that any one of us can use to present to a group. That was something we asked for, and then the survey. So those three things.
Hey, Deb.
So are you? Yeah, go ahead.
So the survey, did that come out to your satisfaction? Because I know that with the last meeting that I attended, I know I was disappointed with it as well, but I kind of pushed it yeah, and I didn't mean to be disrespectful to you, but I kind of pushed it to the side. I think they, sort of had gotten the message that they really needed to work on that a little bit more. And I didn't want us to dwell on it too much and just let them, I think they heard it, and I'm hoping that that was enough and that they came through in the end. Did they?
Yeah, I think I sort of gave up. I think I wanted it to be something other than what it was. And then I went back and I looked at it, and I just think I reconciled myself to keeping it simple. I think I decided that it was more important for people to start to think about, there's sort of just to think about the regionalization. And then maybe in the future, we have a deeper dive. Maybe we rather than having sort of a general survey, we would have focus groups maybe, and get more specific, like focus groups from teachers or from students or community members, and maybe have a scribe rather than just a survey. I think in my head, I was hoping for this sort of a richer opportunity to explore how people felt through a survey. And then I think I had strong feelings about it, and then I just changed my mind. I also felt more comfortable with the letter when I went back and reread it and realized they did talk about declining enrollment. As my team knows, I'm first one to say if I made a mistake, and I think I was like, I think, and then we went through it and changed things, just tweak things to make it more less good or bad, or disadvantages and advantages to benefits and challenges. It's more sort of a hopeful survey. Anything I missed, Karen or Renee? Who else
I
is
don't
there?
think so. I think you did a good job of summarizing how we approached it. And I think everybody was very amenable, and we worked well together.
So Deb, do you think with the survey in the form it's in, that if that goes out sort of as sort of the first step, that might generate deeper questions, and we could possibly put out another one? Yep.
Yes, I think I think there are 15 questions, and we did add some more boxes for comments or please elaborate if people wanted to. And I think it's a good first sort of spin around the block about wrapping our heads around the idea of the regionalization. Yeah.
Good.
And I think we also expanded the groups to include
Yes.
Irving parents and Vernon parents.
Right, because that group, I explained that to Jay, that it didn't include people from other towns. Like someone from Gill might be sending their kid to Pioneer, and we needed to be able just to delineate who was coming from what town and not limit it just to staff coming from outside the district. So.
And there are significant amounts of tuition paid by Vernon parents to our district, as well as Irving parents.
Right.
To Gil Montague.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will only add that I thought the report was actually quite well done. Once I finally got through it all. So I was pleased with that. I thought they hit on all their deliverables, and they laid it out in a way that you could see that they hit on all their deliverables, at least with the report. So
Deb, are you waiting for anything else from them
No.
We're done. So are you okay with us releasing their check?
Yeah. I think I had a very positive relationship with Jay when I emailed him out of frustration on Sunday when I couldn't manipulate and change the survey myself after he had sent us a workable copy. Poor Raina emailed her first, and then she worked on it, of course, being Raina. But Jay emailed me Monday morning and said, sure, I'll do that and fix it, even though I think his contract was done. It wasn't a big deal what I asked him to do, but we talked through it too. So yeah, I thought they were very open to our thoughts, and we got them back on track back in June. So yeah, I thought it was good. What did you think, Renee and Karen? Who else was there?
Yeah, I think so.
Bill, yeah, Steve, yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
I would agree.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Was that Steve?
Yeah, I would agree. I think they got on track. I think they did a nice job. Yeah.
Good, good. Well, thank you for working with them and ushering them along and getting what you were looking for. Sometimes the end result is a lot of work and you don't realize how much goes into producing that end result. So thank you to all of you. Deb, if one of your members steps up, or let me know, or Bill, if you have any interest. I think handing it over to a facilitator will take pressure, I'll use the word pressure, but take some of that responsibility off what the education subcommittee chair would have been doing. So I think that they're really working on now on behalf of that subcommittee. So let's see where we go from here. So
Well,
thank you all.
I don't mind like being in charge of the meeting. I can do that much, but any of the paperwork and doing, poor Greg, he knows where I'm at with like sending him the link and stuff. And I don't have time to do that kind of stuff. Yeah, it
Well,
just,
maybe you consider co-chairing and you run the meetings and someone else does the other stuff, to kind of work as a team.
that would be fine. I mean, chairing the committee being in charge at the meeting is not a big deal. I just have to show up, and sometimes I don't show up on time, but well, I would
Deb,
try.
I just want to
Thank you.
say that your commitment has been commendable beyond measure, and I don't think you have anything to apologize for.
Thank
The
you.
pressures
You guys are forgiving.
are strong, and from my position, I have a lot of other things going on. That's why I'm shaking my head. I can't imagine taking too much more.
Yeah,
But
no, I
you've
get
both
it.
been great, and I certainly appreciate, and I also apologize for missing our last meeting. One of those things where my schedule was just totally out of whack. So that was on me.
That's okay. Thank you. Thanks, Phil. Well, that's why we're on this committee, because we're all busy people. This is what busy people do. They get on other committees. They do. I know it.
I know,
Yeah.
and we don't know how to say no.
We're gonna have to know.
And isn't that what they say? If you want something done, ask a busy person.
Yes.
Well, we always say, if it's easy to find a new chair. Who's not here?
Right. That's Deb.
Whoever's
Yeah,
not
boomer.
there becomes chair.
If I weren't working full time, I could do this. I just can't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we
Understood.
appreciate the work you've done, Deb.
Thank
It's
you.
really-
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Mike, transportation, I think we've hit on enrollment. So we'll have to redo that part, but you may have more comments, and then the spreadsheet. So I'll turn it over to you, Mike, and
Okay.
your subcommittee.
Well, on the transportation side, we did receive what I guess I realized is technically a draft report on transportation done with TransFinder, working with Pam Reipold at Cosmescus Travel, which is the bus company. And I was hoping to see Joanne here tonight, but that's okay. I can follow up with her. Basically, we learned that combining the districts will not make a big difference in terms of transportation. In fact, it will slightly increase from 20 to 21 the number of buses required to transport students. It will also increase time on bus, or actually, for some students, basically for all kids, but essentially the bus runs will become longer, although they will all be, according to this version, under an hour.
Excuse me. I saw that it looked like bus runs L1 and H1 were going to be over 60 minutes, and one of them 75 minutes.
Hang on a second.
Yeah, that's not on the report that I have.
Nor in mine.
Are you, which, are you looking at the report
I'm
from,
looking at the graphs and
what's the title of your report?
well, I looked at the Trans Finder report that we were sent, which I figured was the same as on the website.
What does the title say on the
I
title?
can't see that. I'm away from home and I only have the one device.
Oh, I see, okay.
So Mike, this one says revised, July 29th is the date that it says revised. The longest, the most time on the bus was 58 minutes and it got down as low as 37.
That's what I
So,
remember.
yeah, so I mean, I just went through again at some time to look at it. I was really taken by, it seemed interesting that the longest routes, the 51 and 57, 58, 56, were the minivans that were doing 12 stops, 11 stops, 14 stops, and 11 stops. So you had far fewer kids, but far fewer stops, but the longest ride. When you look at the map of why that is, boy, those minivans, they have a haul to go in directions to pick up all kids. So I'm thinking, Karen, that might have been the earlier version. I think they went through it and ran one thing and then they went back and did it from a different perspective and ran it again. I talked to Joanne a couple days ago and she said that you might be able to save one bus if we did a combination, but I think this is the final report. I think the draft is basically going to come off this, and so we need to make sure, Greg, that Karen and everyone has the document that
The
Karen,
revised document, the document I read had 3 or 4 different possibilities and graphs to go with each of them. And then it was the version with 21 buses that had graphs that showed how many minutes from first pickup to last drop off. And one of them was over 70 minutes. It looked
Okay,
like
and what was the name of that?
That's the
Karen,
old report.
That, what was the name of that route? You I think you just told us.
H1 and L1.
Yeah, you're looking at the old report.
I think, yeah, like I say, I don't have a copy of the new report yet.
There is no
I don't
H1
either.
L1.
Right,
I
so
don't have
Karen,
either.
You're looking at the one that was published from the last grant, so.
Yeah, well, that's the only one I had access to.
Yeah, no, I understand that. It's just that nobody was actually very satisfied with that one. That's which is why we're doing it again. So just a heads up. I mean, sorry.
Oh, okay, and then, we need to know some assumptions. Maybe I missed that part too. Is this in ideal weather conditions? These times?
I would say that's a safe assumption. And I would also say that, remember that Warwick is in this report as a bus run. I think there was a comment made, if they weren't in it, they would be saving a bus.
A bus or
But
two.
that'd be the case whether they were or weren't. I see David's hands up.
Well, we weren't sure about saving a bus if Warwick wasn't in the report, because when we looked at the routes that went to Warwick, it wasn't just Warwick students on the buses.
Ah, okay. David, your hand was up?
Based on recent experience, I'm pretty skeptical of these bus schedules and runs. We got a schedule for Warwick in the next week or so, and it's 1 hour and 25 minutes long. And after a brief hue and cry, it got down to 55 minutes, but it was just like a Pioneer budget of old. It was the same route. They just changed the start time and left the finish time the same. I know the driver, he's driven it. It can't be done in a Subaru with 30-second stops at each house. So I think what we can learn something in general is the bigger the district, the longer the bus rides, and the less the population density, the longer the bus rides.
Yeah.
And it's a cost that works against us.
Yes.
Especially in rural districts, for sure.
Right.
It also has an education component in one of their assumptions, which was that all of the starting and ending times would be the same, then they would be the same as Gil Montague, and their high school day is 10 minutes shorter.
From an educational side, I did have one parent say that their young child learned things on the bus they would never have learned at that age.
I think that's
For sure.
generally true.
Was that a positive statement or a negative one?
Enough years had passed. I think that had become positive.
Ah,
Education is always positive.
Can I ask if anyone knows about the routes that the tech school has? What are the longest rides on that bus?
They were longer than our longest ones.
They were, okay.
I don't remember the
I
time.
think they have some pretty, I don't know for sure, but I imagine they have some pretty long routes.
Steve, might-
I rode one one morning, and the first pickup was at 6 o'clock, and the drop off was at 8. And it was a snowy day, so it was about 20 after 8 when we got to the tech school. But the tech buses, they're all scheduled to be less than 2 hours, but they go all over the place. I mean, they pick up a lot of kids,
right.
and this one was through Orange and Wendell and New Salem, and I think even the last stops were in Montague, something like that. But yeah, it was a long ride. The kids don't complain because that's what they're used to, and they choose to do that.
They have a
Parents
choice.
choose. Yeah.
Steve, Greg? You're muted.
Yeah, Mike, hey, Mike, with the new report, do you know if Joanne looked at possible combinations of Franklin Tech and the new combined region? Because Gil Montague and Franklin Tech are sharing some routes, so I didn't know if that was included, or if they thought about it at all.
I don't, she
I don't
didn't say,
remember.
she didn't talk about that.
Okay.
She has talked about that in the past as being something that they've considered, but ended up not going with because it just wasn't going to work.
Because currently there is some sharing. That's my
Okay.
understanding with Gil Montague and Franklin
Okay.
Tech.
Well, let's put it this way. She didn't mention that.
Okay,
Didn't she mention it as a possibility to be looked into?
Right, that's what
With-
I,
That's
With
what I
this report?
remember.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe I'm misremembering it.
yeah, because they did find some efficiencies
right, that's what I thought.
from Franklin Tech.
Okay, but I think to me, the bottom line is that there wouldn't be a great deal of difference. Bus routes would be longer. No significant dollar savings possible, increased dollar cost, but not a huge increase in cost. One thing that occurred to me that would be, in my opinion, an improvement would be to have the report include what the current routes are, because it doesn't show those. The previous report had showed current routes that showed 24 buses being used currently. Apparently that number's now down to 20, but we didn't see what those routes look like. So I was going to suggest that if this is really a draft report and we get to ask for changes, that we ask for that.
I guess, Mike, we want to know, along with that question, how many fewer students were they transporting with 24 buses versus their projection of 21? I was going to say that the current routes, we could just look at their last report, because that's what they were doing.
Well,
And we
no,
could
I'm
just
saying
compare
that they're not doing it now, though. They apparently have changed it, so they're only using 20 buses.
Oh, they're most recent, okay.
That's what we were
Yeah,
told.
I guess I'd want to know, yeah, I guess I'd want to know what enrollment, what they, how many kids they were transporting then. Yeah. Well, let me see where they are in that. We get a question.
Okay.
Mike, you want to continue?
I want
Oh,
to,
wait a minute,
I
Jane.
want to offer something here. The current TransFinder report is not called TransFinder. It's called Gil Montague Merger Summary.
On the website.
Well, that
And is
that
that
must be
24?
on the website that way
Okay.
because I downloaded it to my computer and I wouldn't have come up with that title. Merger Summary 2020-0602. For
And
some
without with
reason.
24 buses, Jane?
Let me just look. Oh, that's the wrong report.
That's the wrong, 2020
Yeah.
was last year.
Yeah, erase that. I picked up the wrong one.
I'm looking at the report right on the website. It says TransFinder District Merger Study prepared for Gil Montague Regional School District.
Okay,
TransFinder Transportation District Merger.
I thought I had downloaded it, but apparently I didn't.
Well, I think,
All
I
right.
think the newest one is called Gil Montague Merger Transportation Summary. Final.
Oh, let's look. I better look now.
Gil Montague
I
Merger
guess that's,
Summary. 2020-0729.
That's the one I just said.
Oh,
That's not it.
Last year.
It's not.
Okay. Uh,
we could make a quick call to Joanne and get make sure we have the latest and greatest.
Oh, wait,
well,
are
I think,
we talking
I-
about, the last report, the one that's published?
let me look on the website. I'll find it.
On the website, it's dated revised July 29, 2020. District merger study prepared for Gil Montague. And it's underneath, it says TransFinder Transportation District Merger. So it's right under consultants reports. Anyway, that's what's published.
I'm
Well-
hearing, unless I'm getting this wrong, I'm hearing that then they had another one published for the preceding year. It's TransFinder and they have their report. But that was for the past year. And then in between that was what they did last year. I think, Mike, I thought that was your question and I thought that's what the previous report showed. There was 24 buses and that's what they did last year. So aren't they both there, Greg? Karen's saying no.
I
don't know. Why don't we,
It's just the current version, and Joanne was not happy with it because they just combined the bus routes and they just added them together. So they didn't really look for efficiencies. That was why we had this report done again. And that we teamed up with Cosmeskis because they would have the insight to be able to look for efficiencies.
Okay.
That's
The latest one is not actually in consultants' reports. The latest one is on the documents for the FDF subcommittee page.
Hmm.
And it's called GMRSD Regionalization Report 2021-0729.
Yeah, that's July 29th. Oh, 2021 or 2020?
2021, this year.
Okay, so that's the new one.
That's the new one.
Okay,
Right.
yeah, that's not up yet. I mean, I haven't even received that. I don't have. Did
Well,
you-
I think you
you're up-
have. It is on the documents page for the FDF subcommittee.
Okay, so you uploaded it, but I just didn't know you uploaded it. That's probably what happened. So maybe you sent it to me and I just missed it.
Okay, maybe
Okay.
that's true.
That's fine.
But that's the one.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't I replace the last one, we'll archive that so that people can find it, and we'll add that one as the most recent. Sound okay?
That sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Mike, you want to continue?
Sure. Okay, enrollment, do we want to say any more on enrollment?
I think we covered that. You've got the spreadsheet to talk about, unless you have more to say on enrollment.
Before we move on, Mike, we did request to get a verbalization of what the routes are rather than just a map.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Hmm.
So hopefully that will be supplied.
I remember that.
Now, I don't know this to be the case, Jane, so I am talking off the top of my head. If they said we can't provide that because we'd be giving out personal information, well, maybe they do that in the paper, I don't know, of exactly where kids lived and picked up. Was there any rationale behind, did you get a response from that request, or you just requested and hadn't heard
No,
anything?
we've just made the request. We didn't ask for where the pickup points were. We just want to know that they go down First Street, turn on to Third Avenue, follow Third
Okay.
Avenue until they get to Montague Center and, that stuff.
Like a Google's
Okay.
correction type thing. right?
Because if you look at these maps,
I
it's
know.
pretty hard to figure out, and especially on some of them, it looks like they crisscross and
Yeah.
go, loop back, which they're probably not doing. It's because they're running on, streets that are parallel to each other. The nice rural routes out in the country are pretty easy to figure out. But
All right, I'll make a call. I think that's really good information, because when I was looking at the maps also, I was trying to figure out, are they going up and then back down and picking up on the side streets? Or are they doing that along the way, or?
I think
how are
Joanne,
they doing?
I think Joanne is following up on that, isn't she, Mike?
Well, I think we mentioned it, and I think, Alan, how about if I send Joanne and Pam an email?
Thank you.
Asking for, to confirm that they're following up on that, to confirm the situation with sharing with Franklin County Tech, and asking if it's possible to add the current bus routes to the report.
To where?
To the report.
Oh, and did you? Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, and was there anything else that we were looking for?
I couldn't hear the middle question. Was that around looking at Franklin
How are
Tech
you?
and any conversation about what how that might
Yeah,
work?
just what
if
the
they-
situation is with possible actual sharing or possible sharing with Franklin County Tech.
I don't think there is any.
Okay,
Maybe
well, we
just,
could always have Steve ride on some buses and let us know.
right, well, Steve, please do, and send us your report.
Hey, it was a good time.
I bet it was. Well, Natalie Blay rode on one of those buses, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I just, so I'll follow up with Pam and Joanne by
Thank you.
email. I like doing things by email. And if anybody thinks of something after the meeting, let me know, but I'll probably do that in the next day or two. Okay, the financial spreadsheet tool. Other members of the subcommittee, I hope that you'll feel free to chime in with your opinions. It is going, in my opinion, very slowly. We got a brief update right before the meeting saying that we should get something else to look at maybe by the end of the week. I think maybe the best way to approach this is, let's see. Looking for a document I made today. And I'm not finding it. Okay, here we go. I'll just use this. Okay, what we asked for was a tool in Excel that starts with FY22 budgets and combines them into one budget for combined district. What we've received so far, the latest thing we received so far is a tool that starts with the FY22 budgets and adds them together into one big budget, which we all agree is bigger than what would be necessary for a combined district. And the consultants know that there's got to be a way to pare that down. We also want, we want them to be able to combine them into one budget for a combined district. We want to allow for customization of that budget based on different educational programmatic assumptions. That is not there. We saw the beginnings of that there in a previous version, but those beginnings disappeared in the most recent version that we have received. And again, we've been promised yet another version by the end of the week. Shows how that budget is funded. That is not there, including town assessments. Projects that budget 5 years into the future. That is not there. And it's supposed to be designed so that the FY22 budget can be replaced by budgets in future years by members of the subcommittee. And we haven't seen how that's going to work. So that's where we are now, 6 months into the process, or well, I guess 4 months technically into the process. Frankly, I emailed Alan before this meeting saying that I'm feeling a little burned out. I sympathize with Deb Potee. I don't want to go through October and November and December, meeting every other week or every week, seeing little tiny steps, talking about them, moving on to the next one, taking steps backward because we decide that something isn't working. I would like to get a tool in some form that does basically all of those things that I just said. Maybe not perfectly. It doesn't have to be the final version, but I think we spent a lot of time meeting and talking about one little aspect and making decisions on that, and then getting a version that reflects that. But as I say, the most recent version lost some functionality that had been there before for some reason. And I just see this as being a process that will stretch out at least into next winter sometime. Who knows how long? And I don't think we have that much time. I mean, they're looking for their money. I'm not ready to give them the money because we don't have the tool. And even if we wanted to wait another 4 months to get the tool, I don't think the timing works in terms of the money. But I also don't want to be doing this in November and December. I really don't. I've got other things I want to be doing. I don't.
Hey, Mike, let me
I'm a
ask,
blabber, so
let me ask
someone
you,
else.
yeah, I just want to ask a question. So have we, well, Alan, we haven't paid them yet, have we? Or have we?
No, we haven't paid them, Mike, I obviously, because of traveling and stuff, I tried to attend as many meetings as I could. I think I only missed a couple, apparently a couple very important ones. But in the meetings I sat in on, there seemed to be really good dialogue, sharing of information. Matt was asking, will this work? Will that work? he would come back and, test it with you, have a conversation. So I, felt it was going pretty well. And then I guess I missed your last two meetings. So apparently, some of the functionality that you were happy with, I'm hearing got lost in translation when they started doing other things. That's discouraging.
Let me just,
Greg, you had a question.
well, I just want to interject. Alan, why don't you and I reach out to the consultants and just have a quick powwow with them on this? The thing that sort of comes up in my mind is the enrollment figures coming out in the fall, October 1st, I think are going to be pretty important in terms of us being able to punch numbers into whatever financial tool we have. It's going to help hopefully smooth out some of the projections that were caused by on the downside of the pandemic. So I'm just wondering if having a goal for them of having this tool completed in the way that Mike wants it completed by, roughly around October 1st or shortly after that, because to me, that seems to be an important time to be able to start entering numbers. If that, we sit down with them and just, have that conversation and see what their thoughts are. That way we give them a concrete goal and deadline, because it sounds like I saw the email to you, Mike, and it sounds like they're feeling like they're getting closer. So, does that sound like a plan, and that maybe you can take a little time off, because you guys have been meeting a lot, and it seems like we kind of need to wait for those numbers to come in to have, sort of better projections anyway. How does that sound? I don't know.
I don't
Yeah,
like it. I don't like it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that they were trying to do, the finance was, they wanted to, have a tool to be able to do this projection. But the idea behind this was they'd be given a tool to play with that was sort of like in final form. And then if they found it couldn't do some functionality things, they could tweak it. So it sounds like this point in time, maybe more like 2 weeks ago, you'd be playing with this sort of finished tool and making sure that it was working accordingly. And if it wasn't, you'd point out some of the problems, and we'd be finalizing this, the creation of this tool. I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm hearing the progress that I thought was being made. Something happened. I don't know why.
I don't know what functionality got lost. I know I got super busy and didn't pay as much attention the last 2 weeks as I had been paying.
Jane,
But what functionality went away?
the functionality that went away was the list of staff with their steps and columns, that we could change step and column and it would change the cost. And that list of staff was supposed to tie into the budget. And that was in V4. And in V5, there's no list of staff. We left the July 13th meeting. At the end of the meeting, Mark suggested that we take the suggested staffing for the central office of a combined district and apply it to the latest version of the budget tool and see how that worked. And I wonder if anybody tried to do that.
No, that's where I started having conflicts with my time. So I
Okay.
didn't try to do that.
Well, I tried to do it and it was impossible because there was no place in V5 to plug in those numbers. Because those.
So you shared that?
Well, maybe it
Yes,
was,
I did.
Oh, you
Yes,
did?
I did. Matt asked for feedback and I sent him some feedback on July 30th. And part of the feedback was that I thought the formulas that were pulling in the dollar amounts were large. And I just commented saying those are pretty big. Because if you copy paste one, it takes up half a page. And personally, I'm not sure how you go about debugging that without a lot of time and effort. But I said, that's not my call. That's just a comment. But the other thing is we lost this functionality. And so I don't see how to apply these staffing changes that we're supposed to be applying to test this. And I did not receive a reply until today, which wasn't really a reply. It was just, that was the next message I got. So that's the functionality that I see as having been lost. And Alan, I will say that yes, we were optimistic back. I want to say the May, June timeframe of what we were looking at. But since then, I think we haven't made a lot of progress. In fact, in my opinion, we've taken some steps back, and we don't have, the functionality that I described, which is what we asked for. We have almost none of it at this point. And we also asked for proposed salary schedules and health and dental schedules, and for both current employees and retirees for a combined district. We don't have those. We asked again for the enrollment. How do you get from foundation enrollment to attending enrollment? We don't have that. We asked for an assessment of whether a district was formed by combining the two districts would be financially and educationally sustainable. We don't have that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we asked for that we don't have. And
Sounds like
I
we
was
should
looking ahead
probably
saying
have
at
a
the rate
meeting.
we're going, we're not going to get it by October 1st. We aren't even going to get it by January 1st.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted, part of the reason I suggested October 1st was to give some sort of concrete deadline that made sense, as well as put the fire under them. What I'd like to see is a final product by October 1st, so that you have something that's functional, like in the next couple of weeks, and you can play with and be able to, send, I mean, if that's what you're looking for, that makes more sense to me.
Well, I'm looking for something. I'm either looking for something functional or just to say, let's fish or cut bait. If it's not going to happen, let's not waste more time pretending it is going to happen.
Or can it be streamlined to be functional in a way that maybe is not as robust as you would like it, but might be acceptable?
Yeah, something. I mean, I'm open to suggestions. But
Well,
I just,
Michelle, do you have any comments, Michelle?
I'm not as discouraged as, I'm not discouraged. I think Matt is aware of the things that we want, and maybe he just hid this function that is no longer there. I mean, when you program, sometimes you hide something and you can bring it back again. So I think a conversation is good to give him some timelines, but Matt has been very receptive. When we ask him things, I think he understands, what we want. And we did waste a lot of time in the beginning. So we didn't really start with Matt right away. So I think we got to give him a little more of a chance, but light some fire under him, give him a deadline and see what happens. I mean, Matt has never said he couldn't do something, or if we asked him something, he was honest and said he couldn't do something. So.
Yeah, I would like to have a meeting, and if Mike, it sounds like you have a list of the things that they have fallen short on, and if we can go over that list in a meeting.
it's in the RFQ for the finance.
Sure, yeah, no, I know. Okay, that's great. So
I
yeah,
mean, that's the list.
I remember writing it up. Yeah, okay. So we should sit
I mean, it's
down.
not some new thing. They promised.
No, I know, I
to
get
solve
it.
by June 30th.
I get it, but it might be good to have a face-to-face on Zoom and communicate with them directly. Maybe Alan, you, me, and Matt and Mark, so that we can all be on the same page at the same time, and just say, okay, yeah, and have a
My
deadline.
concern is that Mike has been talking to, and the subcommittee has been talking to these two people. If you and Alan go in and talk to them, is that going to be a different message than they've been hearing from the subcommittee?
I would hope.
Not intentionally.
Well,
but-
no, but I would hope so, because Alan and I, being the treasurer, we hold we're the ones that are responsible for paying them. So part of having us in the room is to put the fire under them and say, look, we would like to see a timeline. When are these things going to get done so that we can pay you? It's not about mixing messages. It's more about supporting your subcommittee and making sure you get what you need. I don't see any nodding.
So if
No, I
we
know.
say,
I think if they couldn't deliver, they would have said it by
Right.
now. I
I-
mean,
I tend to agree with
come on,
Michelle.
I've worked with a lot of different people. They read it. They read the RFR. So that's why I'm like, well, summer, maybe he's going to get on it now. Who knows?
Michelle, I kind of, being in the meetings and knowing how receptive he's been, I'm just wondering if it was a challenge to, you know, find the information he had. I doubt it got wiped out. I'm more on the lines of hey, let me, I mean, one of the things that I know the subcommittee was talking about was sort of like a tutorial of, you know, how to use it and where things were and navigate it. And once the tutorial was done, you would play with it and then he could, you know, help in other things. So I don't know, maybe that's a tutorial question. Hey, in looking at this, we're not able to find this that we had asked for, we looked at before. Where do we find it?
Right.
And gonna get, oh, I wiped it clean, or oh no, here it is. It's right here. Here's how you get to it. So I guess I'd give him the benefit of the doubt, and but I think we need to be definitive of we're getting ready. The whole purpose of the tool was to start crunching numbers, so we're getting close to that process. So let's
And there was back and forth emails about how he could get more information now that Tanya Gaylord is gone. I mean, he did ask that, and Tanya was very receptive, sharing information with him. So he could be at somewhat of a standstill if he can't get that.
well, let's find out. So I
Well,
want to
here's-
be on the same page. Are we
here's-
saying, Jane? Go ahead.
There was a point at which Tanya objected to him having the employees in there as individuals and having in there their benefits. And so I think that was then hidden. I don't remember the date that I've been trying to find out what the date of that happening was, and I can't find it. Of
Well,
course,
the
fast
names
enough.
were replaced with employee 1, employee 2, employee 3, or something like that.
But
Yeah.
all of the benefits were wiped out, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think we agreed we didn't care about individual benefits.
Yeah, we did. That's right.
So
So are we saying that you want to have a meeting with the two of us in the finance subcommittee and Matt and Mark, and just have a meeting of the minds and get on the same page? Or is that what we're suggesting, or Greg, are you suggesting?
I
you and
don't think we're off the page.
I don't think I have to
Okay.
be there.
Okay,
I mean, it could be just,
well, I mean,
Alan, it could just be Mike, you and me meeting with the two consultants.
Yeah.
okay.
Unless Jane,
Mike, you okay
Unless-
with that?
unless
Well-
Jane wants to be there, she used to be a programmer.
No, I don't need to be there. I just don't want the message of what we're expecting from them and where we're at to get changed.
Right.
Well, Jane,
Because
how
I
about,
think we're
how
making
about if you're there
progress.
instead of me?
No, I don't want to be there instead of you. I cannot take on
Okay.
anything. You're lucky that I'm here today, if you call that luck.
You want to write what
I
the
mean, to
message
be,
is, Jane?
just to clarify, I don't mean to come across as being very negative. I'm not suggesting that Matt is not sincere or knowledgeable, and Mark is not sincere or knowledgeable, or that they are trying to hide anything from us, or that they can't do this. I'm not suggesting any of that. What I'm saying is, we don't have what we've been looking for. We're now 4 months into it, and at the pace we're going, I don't see us getting it anytime soon. And I'm tired. I don't want to wait as long as it looks like it's going to take, going through as many meetings as it's going to take, like the ones we've had, where we talk about, well, what do you want to do with this code? Well, what do you want to do with that code? I think that they should be able to make assumptions on a lot of that stuff on their own and come up with something. And if we don't like it, we can say, don't do it that way, do it this other way, and they can go back and change it. And a good example is our last meeting when Mark said, well, you got to decide on the assessments, whether you want to use foundation enrollment or attending enrollment or a rolling average. And I was thinking later, pick one, pick foundation enrollment and make it work. And if we decide we want to use something else, we'll plug it in. Make the tool so we can plug in whatever particular thing we want to use. But don't ask a question at one meeting saying, you got to decide which one you want to use. Then we have to think about it. We have to come to a decision. Then they build the tool, and what are they going to do? Build it in so we can't change our minds later on? That's no good.
I
But if we
remember
can
a
change our minds, who
conversation, Mike.
cares what they do at first? Foundation enrollment is an obvious choice. Pick that one.
Well, maybe
And I
that's,
thought we did. I thought we already told them to do foundation enrollment.
Well, we did
That's
at one
of the
point
main-
earlier, but he asked us that question. Yeah, we just sort of left with them saying, well, that's one of the questions we're going to have.
But we keep coming back to how does foundation enrollment compare to actual
right.
enrollment?
Well,
or
that's
to
a separate
enrollment?
question. That has.
I
that
know,
has-
but we inject that into the discussion so
Right.
that it looks like they need to do something about it. We
Well, they
shouldn't
need
be
to
having
explain.
that discussion with them. We should be having it with ourselves.
Well, they're supposed to explain how those things work. And that's a whole separate thing. And I think they should
They
be able to
are?
keep them separate. Yes, it's in the RFQ. And they said they would in their response.
All right, so why don't we, because this is getting to be a specific subcommittee issue. So we'll arrange a meeting, Mike, with the 5 of us, and we'll work our way through it, okay? So give
Well-
some dates, the availability with Greg, and I'll do the same, and he can connect with Mark and Matt and see what we can put together.
Okay,
Okay,
yep, fine with me.
Mike, okay with that?
I guess I have to be. Seems like the best way forward. But
Okay,
at some
thank
point,
you.
I'll be done. Just saying, nothing
I'm
personal.
I'm definitely, yeah, I'm hearing your frustration and I would not want to lose you. You're a financial guru, and you and Jane enjoy doing all that spreadsheet stuff. So
They do.
having both of you on board here is really helpful. And I know, yeah,
I'm looking
Michelle,
forward to being able
God
to use
bless
the
you
tool.
guys.
I've been doing it. Maybe I'm just impatient because I thought we'd get this tool a long time ago. And
Well, I think if we could sit down in the same room
Yes, I
and
do.
work on the tool as a unit, that we would move forward faster than everybody trying to do their own thing. And then you try to get your questions answered, and some of them you forget by the time you get your turn to ask.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I've been asking for that for a long time.
I think
Okay.
meeting in person is gonna be vital anyways. They're gonna have to come out here.
I didn't even
Okay,
mean them. I meant us.
David's
I
been
was-
very quiet. I'm curious if David has any thoughts.
He's
No,
got-
I
He's
think
thinking.
you're right. It's a huge job. It's endless and, but a deal's a deal. I think they intend to work again in this field, so I don't worry.
Hmm.
If I can help, ask a question or get some info. I'm with you, Mike.
Okay, moving down to public relations. So we can now do a second press release now. And we had a good one before the summer as we undertook the work so people know what was going on. So within that, that PR, we can put out, we're looking for a facilitator. And so maybe we can get some free advertising by embedding that into the article of what's going to be happening next. So we'll work on getting something out real quick on that.
Alan, just to recap, you're looking at this facilitator to do what?
So it would take all the information that was gleaned from the education piece, and I'm focused on that right now, and go out to the community, the various stakeholders, and find out how they feel, what they think, how they react to the information, what ideas they may have, what their concerns are, and so forth. Just, and it says my internet's unstable. Are you hearing me? Get all that information, put it together, synthesize it so that we can then review it.
Okay.
Was I
So,
distorted?
nothing on the
Sorry,
financial
sounded
side.
You sounded drunk, Alan, like you drank like a bottle of something.
Yes.
So
Don't
just,
have
just,
smile.
so just clarifying that it's nothing on the financial side.
I think we heard from Deb that we would like a facilitator to disseminate the surveys and evaluate the data for us.
Yeah.
So that must be in there.
And
And
Alan, we-
share the financial part of what we asked for and how we'll be able to put that in play. Not getting into the particulars yet, but what we will be doing with that information to then share that with town officials and school committees and so forth.
Alan,
Michelle?
I just want to remind you about the facilitator. I'd have to look up her name. We had from Northfield for the Heart Committee. And then there was Summit Community Action. So we actually had two different facilitators, if you recall.
Yeah, Gil Montague.
Let you and I talk.
Gil
Okay.
Montague- I was gonna say, we can reach out to Sullivan, because we used a facilitator with Gil Montague when we had the civic leaders way back when. And she was good. I can't remember her name, but I'm
It was
sure.
the same one.
Was it? Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Same one.
Deborah Green.
From Heart to Civic Leaders, yeah.
All right, there you go.
Deborah Green.
There was also, what was the name, Mike?
Deborah Green.
Deborah Green. There was also I want to say a Karen Boudreau
maybe-
that
no,
lived
actually,
in
maybe I wasn't.
Northfield.
Oh,
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
we wanted her to be able to do actually do the consultant work. She was really tied up, but she might be willing to be a facilitator, so we should reach out to her again.
Yep.
So any others, send on and we'll put it out there and we'll see if we can get that in place. So if we secure the money, we can start that. What time is it now? I try to not have it go.
7:38.
More than. All right, any other next steps? I think we kind of outlined those. We'll meet with Desi. We'll try to get some answers from them. We'll hire a facilitator. We'll share information in the newspaper so people can be up to date and know what we plan on happening in the fall for sharing. And Karen said it nicely, to do what Karen said. And then we'll, develop a shared plan on how we're going to take that information and then put it back out again. Greg, do you mind if we don't review the goals, or is there something, are we on task?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I think that, but to Mike's point, in terms of reaching out to the community, I think we need to hit on the educational programming first. That's going to be easier for the public to handle. And then when we finally have a financial tool where we can run projections, that can come later to give more concrete answers if we have public questions about that. That's the way I sort of see things unfolding. The other thing is with a new business director and superintendent in Pioneer, we're going to need to also be reaching out to them fairly soon. I'm sure they're up to their ears right now, just trying to get a handle on their own district, but we'll need to set up some time to sort of fill them in terms of where we are and what all this means, because they may have no idea.
Yes. Any parking lot items for the next meeting? Agenda items you think we should add, pursue? If you come up with any between now and then, send them on to Greg. when's a good time to be meeting now? We've met on Tuesday. There seems to be meetings, select board meetings on Monday. Michelle, you can't make. There's Thursday is set aside for Pioneer because there's always a chance of the second meeting. Wednesday, we have some members that cannot make that. So, and no one wants to meet on Friday. So it looks like Tuesdays are our best bet. This coming Tuesday, Pioneer has a subcommittee meeting, but if people are okay with that, we could start looking at maybe, I don't know, maybe, is there a second Tuesday, third Tuesday in September? What are people thinking? Greg, what are you thinking?
Well, I mean, the other question is, I mean, I have select board meetings on Monday, but they're not every Monday. They're every other Monday. I'm not sure what other select boards do. I know some do weekly, some do every other.
In the summer, we've been doing every other, but we're going back to weekly for September.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to see if that might be a possibility as well. But yeah, no, I mean, Tuesdays, that's okay with me.
Well, Labor Day is Monday, September.
I'm missing a school
Bill?
committee meeting right now. Our meetings are on the second and fourth Tuesdays of every month. So if you can plan the first and third, that eliminates a conflict for me. Otherwise, I told them tonight I would be absent, but as soon as this is over, I'm gonna try and log in.
So Bill, is
All right,
the third week of September? Is that, do you have what's the date? I don't have a calendar in front of me. Is that?
at 14th. How about September 14th? That would be the third
That's
one.
the second,
seventh-
that's the second Tuesday, Alan.
It'd be the one
The
after
14th? Oh,
Yes,
you're right, the way that
The 20
falls, you're right.
21st.
21st, yeah.
I think that's,
So why don't we,
I think that's okay, because we'll need to get together with the consultants between now and then
all right,
and get some.
and we'll say at 6 o'clock. And Bill, I'm glad you brought that up because Joanne is obviously at that school committee meeting, and that's the only reason she's not attending. So thank you for bringing that up. Otherwise, she would be participating.
Sure.
Thank you.
I have a,
And
Alan,
Cassie Demkoller is also on the school committee, our new member.
but I have a question, and
Okay.
maybe it's just for you and Greg, in case others people would like to leave. But my question, I've been thinking about the letter you sent to Desi. Is the money coming from the Community Compact Grant Efficiency and Regionalization Program, or is it coming from Desi? It's straight
From
from.
DESI, it's from,
Okay.
yes, it's a regionalization grant that DESI, from DESI. And
Yeah,
it's a
not part of
governance
it.
board as a subsection of them.
Okay, because I've been reading the region, what, I've applied for many community compact grants, and I'm gonna go for some again. And efficiency and regionalization is all about merging of school districts. So my point was going to be, maybe that letter that you wrote should be going to other people like the Department of Local Services, but if they're not giving you, and someone's providing it to DESI, obviously, from the state, then it's just DESI who controls it. Because if we had a wider breadth of people looking at this issue, it may get some traction, like Joe Comerford and Paul Mark and stuff.
Well, and they will. I think the goal with the letter was to allow DESI some room to make suggestions. I mean, Comerford and Blay and Whips and Mark all know about what we're doing. And we have kept them, for the most part, up to date. I think it's important that we update them again soon. But I've been giving them regular updates in terms of where we are and what we're doing.
Yeah, the feeling, Michelle, was if we sent the letter to them and then we started copying all the congressmen and representatives. It wouldn't feel right. You know, it would feel like,
Oh,
you know, we're sort of trying to get in the back door and doing it that way. We need DESI to say, yeah, this is a big issue, and let them suggest, let's start broadening that net, and you have a good suggestion on one way to do that. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well, I would just say to also,
Oh,
if you allow DESI to actually formally reply, and they say that, yeah, there's an issue here, right? That squarely puts it in, not just in their court, but it gives us the firepower to then go to the legislature and say, look, DESI, by their own words, acknowledges that there's an issue here.
All right.
You know, that's sort of the thought behind it.
Okay. All right.
If-
Thank you.
If you could get them to write it, that would be great.
Yep, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All right. So that was Karen made the motion, Michelle seconded it. All those in favor, give me a thumbs up. We're not gonna do disappear as you're going out. Alan Genevieve's, yes. Hey,
Mike Naughton, I.
Michelle, so
Yeah.
I.
Thank you all.
See ya.
Sure, I.
O'Neill says yes.
Craig, aye.
Steve says yes.
Aye.
Steve is gone. Renee said yes. Karen's iPad,
Renee-
and I'm a yes.
Fell asleep, I think. Just gone.
Thanks, Greg. We'll catch you later.
All
We
right, yeah,
got some
well,
homework to do. We can talk tomorrow.
yeah, okay, sounds good.
Yeah,
later.
all right, bye.